There are hundreds of swordsmen in the One Piece world, and have you ever wondered who are the strongest and why they're the strongest? Well, I also had these questions. So I examined every single swordsman in One Piece so I could make this video. I looked at every small detail I could think of and crafted many different theories revolving around swords, characters, styles, and much more. So that way I could make sure this video is researched thoroughly and to the best of my ability. And without further ado, let's dive into explaining the strongest swordsman in One Piece. Now, to start, we need to ask ourselves the question, what makes someone a swordsman? The swords. I don't know why I was making that sound like a super deep question. The swords make a person a swordsman. Very simple, but that's our building block right there. To be a swordsman, you need swords. Alright, we got it? Yep. Now, there are swords that are more powerful than other swords, and we'll get to that in a few moments. But from here, we then need to decide what other qualifications make someone a swordsman. Does just holding the sword make you a swordsman? Or does the sword need to be your main form of attack and defense? I think it's the second option. A person needs to use a sword as their main ability in battle. So by this logic, a character like Big Mom would be ruled out of this video. I made a YouTube short about this several months ago, and it's been a debate on the internet for a while now, and my comment section was also debating about it. But what I said was Big Mom uses a sword, but she's not a swordsman, or swordswoman, sorry. That's because she uses Napoleon, Zeus, Prometheus, Hera, all pretty much evenly throughout a battle. And you can't forget she has a devil fruit power as well. That's not really her main attack, but since she uses all these different abilities in a fight, I don't think you can classify her as a dedicated swordswoman, because other characters like Mihawk, for example, rely only on their swordplay and not extra abilities. Some other characters that can be ruled out of this video are King, Queen, Basil Hawkins, X-Drake, Cracker, and this one guy from Skypiea. And I would go as far to say Whitebeard, but that one's a bit iffy. But this is because these people don't purely rely on their skill with a sword. Now that we have defined what a swordsman is, let's go into a key part of what makes a strong swordsman, the type of sword that they use. In One Piece, you don't really see a strong and skilled person using a default sword like these guys are holding. Many swordsmen have swords made directly to fit their fighting style, and they come in all shapes and sizes. Yoru is the name of the strongest sword in the world and is a good example. This blade is wielded by the one and only Mihawk and is absolutely enormous in size, measuring in at well over 7 feet in length. Yoru is also one of only 12 swords to have ever been given the supreme grade. This is the highest possible grade a sword can have in One Piece, meaning that the sword, in this instance Yoru, has displayed incredible feats through its usage. As of now, we only know of 4 of the 12 supreme blades, one being Yoru, the others being Murakumogiri, which was Whitebeard's sword, Ace, which was Roger's sword, and Shodai Katetsu, which we don't really know much about. Now, a sword doesn't have to have this grade to be considered a good blade. There are 3 other tiers to the sword grading system: normal grade, skillful grade, and great grade. And throughout the show, we have seen numerous swords in these lower grades that are extremely powerful. So that leads me to another example, which is Enma. Enma is a sword that was owned by Odin while he was on Whitebeard and Roger's cruise. And after his death, Enma was passed on to his daughter Hiyori, and then later in Wano, we see Enma given to Zoro. Now, Enma is in the Great Blade category, which is the second strongest when it comes to grading. Yes, Enma, a sword that has battled against the likes of Roger, Whitebeard, Kaido, King, and many others, is still not worthy of a supreme grade. We've seen how powerful this sword is firsthand. Zoro, who is undisputedly a top 5 swordsman right now, struggled containing this sword's power. That just goes to show how powerful some of these swords are, and why a strong swordsman is just as much about the blade as it is the person. Okay, I don't know about you, but I'm a hands-on learner, and I really wanted to test this stuff out for myself. Thankfully, my friends at Swords of Northshire were able to help me out. They sent me a real-life metal replica of Sandai Katetsu. Sandai Katetsu is one of Zoro's swords, and it's a normal grade sword because I don't think I'm ready for the big dogs just yet, like Enma or Shusui, which Swords of Northshire also sell, by the way. But now that I have a real sword in my hands, I think I can truly start to understand what separates the weak swordsman from the strong swordsman in One Piece. Swords of Northshire have a great selection of realistic One Piece swords like Trafalgar Law's Kikoko, Wado Ichimoji, Yubashiri, Enma, Shusui, and Sandai Katetsu, which is the one I'm holding right now. They also have other awesome replica swords like Samurai, Japanese, Chinese, and even this cool Ringoku sword from Demon Slayer. I'm actually amazed at the quality of these swords, so I asked them if they could hook you guys up with a deal, and thankfully they said yes. So for a limited time, you can use code YONKO10 to get 10% off of any swords on the website. They said they don't do discounts like this very often, so make sure to grab a sword before they take the code away. And if this video gets 2,000 likes, I'll give away a sword to someone that comments, so smash that like button. Now that I have this sword in my hands, I'm starting to get why characters like Mihawk, Shanks, and Zoro are so confident. So overall, that's kind of the basics with swords and why some swords are better than others, But there is one more thing that separates a normal sword from the best swords, and that is achieving a black blade. You can make your sword black with armament hockey because it's like an extension of yourself, but it won't stay black forever, only during that battle. However, there are two swordsmen who have achieved the feat of making their sword permanently black, meaning it's permanently imbued with hockey no matter what. And those two are Ryuma and Mihawk. Both of these guys are known to be the best swordsmen of their generation, and I think having a permanently black sword automatically gives them that title until someone else does it. And I think that someone else could be Zoro in the future. I could also see that happening to Zoro in a few different ways. If it's before the battle with Mihawk, it will show Mihawk that he needs to take Zoro seriously. Or if it's after the battle with Mihawk, blades turning black will signify the moment that Zoro surpasses Mihawk and becomes the world's strongest swordsman. So those are black blades. There's not really too much information about them, but that's why they're important to the storyline. And now let's go into another section of what makes a strong swordsman, their techniques. I think that the sword technique someone uses doesn't matter as much when it comes to strength as long as they have mastered it. We've seen many different techniques. Zoro could be used as an example. He's used 1 sword style, 2 sword style, 3 sword style, and even 4 sword style. Well, yeah. The style a character uses doesn't really matter. They can be strong with whatever they do, but it's how they build off of the technique that they choose. Anybody can hold 3 swords and swing them around, but if they don't dedicate the time to train properly, it does them absolutely nothing. This is actually shown in One Piece towards the beginning of Wano. Luffy tries to use a sword, and even though Luffy is extremely strong, and the sword he grabbed is also extremely strong, he was useless with it in his hands because he has never trained to be good at any sword techniques. This wasn't just a random sword either. Its name is Nadai Katetsu, a great sword. So it just shows how important training is to becoming a swordsman. Overall, techniques can vary in One Piece, and there is no true reason why some people are able to do certain techniques. Kinemon and Zoro can both create fire with their swords, and there's no explanation as to why. Kinemon's technique is called Foxfire style, so all we can assume is that he trained so he could somehow create fire. I still don't know why. There are other weird techniques like this one too. A pirate named McGuy, who was allied with Whitebeard, is seen coating his sword in lightning. I can't give you a definitive explanation as to how he does this because Oda hasn't explained it. My assumption is that once a swordsman reaches a certain level of swordsmanship, they're able to combine hockey with their techniques to create these special attacks. Another interesting sword style I would like to mention is Kawamatsu's Kappa style. At some point in Udon, Kawamatsu says that trying to fight against his technique is like trying to swim against raging waters. So from this statement, I think you can deduce that he combines Fishman karate with his Kappa style. Take a look at this attack called River of Sea. It does give me similar vibes to Jinbei when he uses Fishman karate. So this just adds more layers to what swordsmen are capable of and the possibilities of things that we could see in the future. Oddly enough, the strongest swordsmen that we know about, like Mihawk, Shanks, Roger, Rayleigh, Bogard, don't seem to have any of these special techniques. In the Odin flashbacks, we see Roger use an attack called Divine Departure, but it's just a swing of his sword with some hockey, not any of these special techniques that we see much weaker swordsmen do. Same with Mihawk and Shanks. Everything we've seen so far has pretty much just been a swing of the sword. Like in Marineford, Mihawk was just swinging the thing. No named attacks or techniques, just swinging. There could be many reasons for this, but I think the main reason is to still keep their true power a mystery, which is insane if you think about it. We first see Mihawk at the Baratier, and now 20 plus real life years later, we still don't know that much about him. I feel like I can make a part 2 to this video in the future once we learn more about Shanks and Mihawk, because right now I can only theorize about them, and I could have gone 2 different directions with this video. I could have just named swordsmen and what they do, but I thought that would be boring, and I also just wanted to go deeper into what makes someone a swordsman, and then once they get that title, how you can determine their strength. Let me know if you want to see more videos like this because I enjoy making them, and if you enjoyed this one, check out some other ones on my channel.